Hello, good day. Thanks for joining me. My name is Dennis and welcome to my art channel. Today we're going to be doing some watercoloring. In this one we got a 3-for-1 special. Pretty much +1 on the video made a couple weeks ago of 2 paintings at once. Here we have 3 paintings at once. Hopefully things are gonna go smoothly with 3 times as many things going on at once. Starting with one big stroke all across each of the paintings and making a mark on every page. Trying to make sure that there's no anxiety about hitting every single page and just trying to flow in between all 3. And even then you can see that the 3 different papers, the 3 different loads and amount of water that they're taking. The middle page is definitely rougher, cold press kind of paper, so it tends to absorb a little bit more water than the left and the right painting do. And you can see a bit more saturation, especially on the right painting as of the very beginning stages of the painting. Hitting it with a bit of a bright yellow to kind of give it a little bit of contrast. The yellow and purple is a super contrasty combination. The Lakers colors, a bit of, I guess they're complementary colors, so they are intended to give you a little bit of that eye pop, that contrast look. But I'm done with the washes. Every square inch is already covered in paint, and I'm going in with a smaller brush, an angle brush, and hitting it with a blue. I believe I'm going in with the ultramarine. It looks like a darker, cooler kind of blue. And since the pages are already covered in watercolor, and especially a lot of water, emphasis on the water, as I work into the paper, it picks up the color that's already existing on the page and it becomes something new. The blue ones with the red becomes a new kind of a violet, and especially when those deeply saturated yellows, it blends into a greenish kind of tone. Following up with a bit of red and get all 3 of the primaries down somewhere, and we have the basis of a full colored painting. Adding some liquid water to it and get some lighter marks throughout, but still up to this point I'm working fairly evenly across all 3 paintings. The left painting definitely has the most surface area, so I do think that eventually they'll be diverging a little more as time goes on. The right 2 probably a bit more similar than the left painting. Going in with a darker color here, I believe this is the indigo, probably one of my favorite colors that I have on this palette, and just sort of a darker watercolor. I feel like it's hard sometimes to get a true black out of the watercolor, and so I think indigo and diocesan purple on my palette, and maybe the umber, the ochre. I keep forgetting the color. The sepia, the warm sepia is probably one of my darkers as well, but it doesn't always become what I imagine. I feel like it's not quite as dark as a oil pastel or any kind of other paint. Acrylic paint, oil paint are both going to be a little darker. I know I could use like a gouache to really lay down some darker, more opaque kind of colors, but that's not really my preference here. It's still fun to just have to put down more pigment to get the kind of saturation and deepness and layers of color that I want out of these paintings. And we're already about halfway through the video here, and I feel like it's time to shift into a smaller, more delicate kind of brush. This is a moment where I feel like I slow down, take a bit of a chill pill on the drawings and the paintings, and see where color needs to be added, where water needs to be added for a bit of blend, where some lines and textures, some extra marks could tell a bit more story. These are kind of the things that I'm thinking of. Always a key moment of how the edges, how the corners are looking, if they're smooth or if there's any areas that I've totally neglected, not touched with a brush. And I think overall, looking between these three as they stand, there's still a few big splotches of color that need to be addressed, like the red splotch in the right painting and the violet and yellow on the left painting. That's just sort of it feels like it's still sitting on the page a bit too much. It's not into the paper, if that makes sense. And some addressing will be happening. I feel like at this stage I'm most happy with the center painting. I feel like it's at a point where I could see myself stopping here and calling it a bit of a lighter kind of palette, lighter kind of work. I do feel like sometimes I can tend to overwork these paintings and I guess get in my head a little bit too much about, oh, I need to add this or fix this, when really just having a bit of restraint and stopping would be the right move. That said, we're going into that red area now, but my response is choosing a darker color, getting the indigo in on there, and moving on to the middle painting with that same indigo makes a vast darkening on the middle of the page, and I do feel like I've left myself a problem, something that needs to be addressed. I don't think that I would go so far as to call it a mistake. I really feel like there's no such thing as a mistake in painting, at least like for me. I feel like it just depends on what your expectations are. Like, I'm expecting that things aren't gonna go exactly as planned. The water is going to take over at some times, and I might not fully understand how all these colors and at different saturation levels will interact. So I don't consider it a mistake if I'm going a little too saturated on the page or changing something or taking a risk with how things go. I think it's just a matter of perspective. You know, if something happens that I feel like isn't quite there, I feel like it's just one more step is required. It's just one step in the direction of having a completed painting. It might be, a sidestep, a step down sometimes, but like I said, I feel like I see it more of like adding a problem to be solved to the painting, and then making mistakes as if there's some sort of standard that needs to be reached with these paintings. I really feel like something like this is just meant to be a creative expression, and that means not having any kind of strict expectations on the page. I feel like it's fine to start with some image in mind or have a goal of what to work for, but at least in this kind of abstract sort of style, I'm trying to refrain from attributing too much meaning or significance to these lines and colors. I would like to I hope to leave it up for a bit of interpretation, how these things feel, how maybe the connection of how I felt leads to how you might feel about these lines and things. I know it might not necessarily be a figure drawing, a figure painting. It's not a portrait, you know. Quite obviously isn't a face here, but that's not to say that I don't hide some eyes or something like that within the painting. I feel like there's some little connections that you can make and all sorts of symbols, and just the color itself can have the significance. Like, all you need to do is paint a red square and you have a meaning, right? But I feel like meaning should be a little bit up to interpretation, and I want my paintings to be accessible to anybody, right? To be able to look at it and be like, I understand. This is something that is basic human kind of nature of, these colors go together. This contrast is something notable, and this is a portal to a world that somebody else has created, and something that I can see myself in as well. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit about paintings and their interpretations beyond just what's going on the page, but I do feel like it's important going forward of just what the context is for all these paintings. I mean, in the moment I'm just having a bit of fun playing around with pigment and water, but in the greater scheme of these, doing this every day, every week, I mean, I am building into something that I hope is going to be more of a connection into other kind of facets of life, or maybe some connection with the overall kind of human condition as these paintings go. I don't really have any kind of political messaging or anything that I am incorporating in these paintings or these videos. I just hope to encourage a creative output and a creative flow for you, the viewer, because I really feel like everyone should be in some sort of creative expression. It doesn't necessarily have to be painting or drawing or a visual art at all. Just tapping your fingers onto the table, just making a little beat could be a creative expression itself. Something that doesn't require a tool beyond, I guess, having some fingers. But, you know, I feel like everybody can gain from having that feeling that you've created something, and that you can share that something with somebody else. And so I hope you take these words and as an encouraging thing, that if you have something you want to work on or some feelings you want to get out, go on and get them out. Grab a paper and just shred it up with graphite, shred it up with some ink, or maybe just sing a song that you have in your heart, something that you feel like you just need to get out, or maybe just to dance listening to the music of somebody else. That's still how you react to that music, how you feel that music is, and what kind of vibe you want to interpret with it. Now that I'm done with these paintings, I'm just shuffling them around, seeing how they feel. Is there a arrangement that works to flip them up, make them interesting? I do feel like with the odd shape of the paintings, having the central painting be the square makes sense, rather than how I initially had them. And I think this is an orientation that I quite like. Let me know in the comments if there was an orientation that you felt was good. I would probably attribute it, how I was painting them, to be like 1, 2, 3 of square, rough paper, and then my softer kind of palette on the right. But yeah, let me know what your favorite painting is in the comments down below. I've read a good amount of comments of what y'all were picking out for the last one. I'm always interested to hear. I release a new video every Friday, so please subscribe if you're new here. And you know what to do. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it. I'm always trying to improve. Hopefully that comes through on these videos. Well, without further ado, take care. I do hope you enjoy the weekend. Peace out.